Hello guys. Every now and again a new story surprises even me, and a lot of people think that members of parliament are idiots. Well, I think one guy's really proved that, right? Now, he was in parliament discussing something which I found really strange, and many people did as well. Although maybe there's more of a point to this than I originally thought. But anyway, firstly, I'm going to comment on what he said. He was basically talking about how, in his view, and I'm trying to keep a straight face on this, men were committing more crime than before because the main character in Doctor Who was now played by a woman instead of a man. No, I'm not making this up. You can check the links below in the description. He honestly said that because male characters such as, and he included Doctor Who, were replacing the main roles with actresses when they were previously portrayed by male actors. He believes that that is causing young men to commit crime. Now, I find this laughable. He's become a laughing stock over this issue, and on the surface it is entirely laughable. But, it's generally what he talks about, the replacement of men with women. But then I thought about this. On the surface he's a complete imbecile. But then I thought about this. Does he actually have a point? And so I tried to think of where he might actually have a point here, potentially. Now, one of the side effects of feminism has been unemployment. Before, women were expected to just stay at home and cook and clean for men and the children, once they had children, and they were expected to never work again, and the man would go to work and be the breadwinner, and the woman would basically just stay at home and basically scrounge off him. And then women decided that they got bored of scrounging off men and actually wanted to go to work and earn a living themselves. Some of the women probably wanted their independence because in return for scrounging, a lot of men beat their wives physically because they didn't like how much scrounging they did, or something like that. I don't know. And so basically, a lot of women decided for whatever reason they wanted independence, which is fair enough. But a downside of that is that jobs which were once done by men were done by women, which caused unemployment. Okay, because if a woman's doing a job that used to be done by a man, then it means the man no longer has a job. Or, if this wouldn't be the case for jobs where there was a chronic shortage, or where they had to import people from abroad, for example. But otherwise, that's the downside of it. Now, I understand a lot of women will be upset about this. They'll say, how dare you? We were oppressed for years, and you're absolutely right. Women were oppressed for years and years and years. But you cannot deny that the consequence of equality is men not having jobs which they would otherwise have been able to do, because that job has been technically taken by a woman. Now, I'm not going to go into the rights and wrongs of all this, it's just fact. And so, a lot of men are also aware that it's worse than that. Now, in a lot of countries, they want to replace a man with a woman just to brag about it. So, for example, a lot of companies will now have a female CEO, not because she was the best person for the job, but just so that they can brag that they had a female CAO. A lot of women were put into positions purely so that the company can brag about it, or in the organisation. For example, the head of the European Union is a woman. I have my suspicions she was picked just because she was a woman, just so that the EU could look really feminist and say, look, we've got a woman in charge now. In Britain, for example, we have a woman in charge of the Metropolitan Police. She is the most senior police officer of either gender, or any gender if you really want to be very politically correct, in Britain. The most senior judge in Britain is a woman. Many of the top jobs are done now by women, and I have my suspicions that they were chosen just because they were women, just because it would look brilliant to have a woman in charge of it all, rather than it being based entirely on merit of who is actually the best person. Now, I could be wrong, maybe, they genuinely were the best candidates. I have no idea, but I know there has been a huge feminist push in this country to try to get as many women as possible into top jobs. But what's this got to do with crime, you ask? Well, okay, let's assume this MP does have a point here. A lot of men in the past would have perhaps tried hard at certain jobs, or saw that there was a career for them, or saw that there was a way out by doing honest work. But now a lot of men might think, what's the point? Why should I bother trying at school? Why should I bother trying at all? They'll only give it to a woman. And so now a lot of men might feel that they genuinely do not have a career path anymore, just because they feel that the opportunities that once they would have been instead taken by women, just because they're women. And they feel that they have to prove that they are exceptionally better than the woman, because the organisation would rather employ a woman just so they can brag about it, and so that it looks good for PR purposes. This, in theory, could turn some men to crime if they think there isn't a way of earning an honest living available to them. In the past, many people did commit crime, particularly when there was no welfare state, because they felt they had no option. Many young boys in the past, a long, long time ago, were pickpockets and stole from the rich, not because they necessarily wanted to, but they felt it was the only way they could stay alive at all, when there was no welfare state. And do we really want to go back to those times where people genuinely feel they have no choice but to become common thieves, stealing from people as the only way they feel they can stay alive, or something like that? I don't think we want to go back to those times. But I do believe that people should be employed on merit, and not just so that they can brag about the fact that they employed a woman. There may be rare exceptions where the job clearly should be female only. I don't know, for example, in some acting jobs, it would make sense, for example, that if there was, I don't know, a drama about Queen Elizabeth, if it was played by a woman, that would make sense to me. There may be some artistic companies that want to do a drag version of our Queen and have a man dressed up as a woman pretending to be our Queen. But that would be done for artistic reasons. But you would not expect, if a company didn't want to do a serious, documentary drama, you would expect the role of our Queen to be played by a woman. And I understand that, okay? There may be other jobs where, for whatever reason, like in a rape crisis centre, some women may feel uncomfortable talking to a man about having been raped. So I get that, okay? And so there may be certain careers where it's, for common sense purposes, better than it's done by a woman. But if it is simply a CEO, or anything else, then in the vast majority of cases it should just be who's the best person for the job, rather than can we box tick and choose a woman over a man just because it will make great PR. And that could be why this Member of Parliament believes that men are turning to crime, because they do not see any role models, perhaps on TV, or perhaps even in the real world, where men are seen as successful leaders anymore. And indeed, the white male is seen and portrayed in the media generally as evil, just because they were born a white male. As there's all this media coverage about Black Lives Matter and about feminism in general. Okay? And so maybe, although this member of parliament has been generally laughed at, and I originally laughed at him too, maybe there is some truth in what he's saying. I don't know. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and if you want to see the clip where the member of parliament actually says exactly what I said he said, then I've linked it in the description. I provided the details in the description rather than directly by video, because often YouTube likes to block things, and I really don't want to edit it and then the video gets blocked or is made available only in certain countries or whatever. So I provided the links so you can find out for yourself. Okay? Thanks for watching, guys. Bye!